90.3 WHPC wants to let you know that Wednesday, April 17th, is our second ever WHPC Day at Miller's Ale House of Levittown. On Wednesday, April 17th, Miller's Ale House of Levittown is hosting a Give Back Day to support WHPC. More information can be found by searching for 90.3 WHPC on Facebook, at 903 WHPC on Twitter, or at 903 WHPC on Instagram. Miller's Ale House is located at 3046 Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown, across from the Tri-County Flea Market, where WHPC's Give Back Day is Wednesday, April 17th from 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thanks to you and Miller's Ale House of Levittown for supporting the non-commercial educational radio at the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. This show is brought to you by the Paramount in Huntington, who presents Classic Albums Live, The Beatles, Abbey Road 50th Anniversary on Saturday, April 6th at 8 p.m. More information can be found online at ParamountNY.com.
Winner of the Best Public Affairs Program Award from the 2019 Intercollegiate Broadcasting System. Listen to Your Family's Health, Tuesday afternoons at 3.
FM,
HD,
Amazon Echo,
Google Home,
the TuneIn Radio app,
the iHeartRadio app,
and nccradio.org.
This is 90.3 WHPC.
WHPC HD.
Garden City,
Long Island,
New York.
Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College and the 2019 winner of Community College Station of the Year. Yippee, 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 yeah. Anyway.
We rule.
We're part of the Sports Talk family, which is From the Press Box, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Mondays. Sports Talk, 5 p.m. on Monday and Tuesday, Thursday at 9 p.m. and Friday at 3 p.m. I am Rob Lennon. Joining me, as always, is my brother and, yes, award-winning sports writer Tim Leonard. Hello, brother. How are you?
Good morning, brother.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
That's good. See, this week we can talk about football because it means something. Oh, he shaved.
You just noticed?
I just noticed. Well, I don't look at you when you come in the car. I'm looking straight ahead, being safe on the road.
Yes, brother.
You know, it's not like saying, oh, look. Matter of fact, the beard looked better. But this is old Tim Leonard. You just need the mustache hanging out for a little
week.
bit.
I was gonna do it to show the people on the Facebook Live, but that won't be happening today.
Well, you can run out to car in the middle. In the middle of the show.
Okay, sure.
And we parked way in the back today.
Commercial break.
We parked way in the back in the parking lot.
Do that 200-yard sprint like Michael Johnson.
Yeah. So anyway, JP Pelzman, writer for Forbes.com, football writer for Forbes.com, will be joining us about 9:25. And we can also talk, brother, with at least for me, with some knowledge about the NCAA basketball tournament, men's basketball tournament.
Very good, bro.
Because there is a women's basketball tournament.
Of course.
So do they go by March Madness also?
Yes, but I don't. I'm pretty sure they do also use the term Final Four, but the NCAA is very particular.
Well, the reason I bring it up is, for those who don't know, years ago, Tim was the premier college hockey writer in the country, and he did a story once on how the hockey people, the college hockey people, can't call their thing the Final Four, even though it's the NCAA's, and you would think they're all one big happy family.
Damn it.
But
no, they're not.
But they're not, and they can't call themselves the Final Four in hockey. They call themselves the Frozen Four.
They had to come up with that. I helped come up with that, by the way.
I know you did. So it's kind of interesting that even though it's in-house, they're not allowed to use it.
Nope.
And, of course, now, the Final Four is a trademark thing.
Exactly.
And,
that's why they didn't
March
want hockey
Madness
using it.
is, too. So what's happened is you hear a lot of ads this month. Like I heard one before. It said, I hope your hoop dreams come true, or something like that. And it's like, well, we can't call March Madness.
Well, that's like with the Super Bowl,
right?
When the Super Bowl, when all kinds of companies when
They want to hook onto it without actually paying the NFL.
Yeah, when companies have competitions and win a Super Bowl ticket or win a TV to watch the Super Bowl,
Right.
They always call it the big game.
Right, which is even worse. It's just so stupid.
Because if they use the term Super Bowl, they have to pay the NFL.
I would call it the championship.
Whatever. But
The football championship is much better than the big game.
Well, I don't know.
Doesn't
matter. Anyway, brother, let's talk about what we need to talk about.
Okay, first of all, your favorite team of all time, Duke. Again, surprising, brother. Is the number one seed in the tournament.
Not surprising.
Why? Why not? You hate Duke.
No, I mean, I very much dislike Duke, but it would be hard to argue.
I think you call them criminals many times.
Many times they are. But it would be hard to argue that Duke isn't deserving of the number one seed. So I didn't have a problem with it. Surprisingly to me, that they're not playing in North Carolina, they're playing in South Carolina.
Oh,
which isn't exactly a big detriment for them. I'm sure that there's plenty of Duke fans in South Carolina as well, and it's obviously a very short trip. But it's usually Duke is a number one seed and is playing about 20 miles down the road. But it is what it is. It's they're playing in South Carolina. They're playing two teams that I've pretty much never heard of. For a play-in game, they're playing the winner of North Carolina Central and North Dakota State.
Wow.
Who knows? That'll be a 40-point win, easy, if not more. Zion Williamson will play maybe 20 minutes in that game. It'll be a nice tune-up for them to play the winner of Virginia Commonwealth in Central Florida.
So each division now has 2 play-in games. Is that the deal?
Well, no. Each bracket has one. Well, actually, I'm just looking real quick. The answer is no.
No,
because
okay.
the East and the West both have 2 play-in games.
Oh, okay.
The East, besides North Carolina Central and North Dakota State, also has Belmont versus Temple, and the winner of that will be the 11 seed and will face Maryland. Belmont is a very strong upset candidate. That's a good team, and that's a team that belonged in the tournament, and nobody was sure if they were going to get an at-large bid, and then they did, so the tournament committee actually got one right for a change. The other in the West, for the 16 seed, we have Fairleigh Dickinson University back in my old stomping grounds in Bergen County, New Jersey, is playing Prairie View A&M for the right to be the 16 seed and face Gonzaga.
Yeah,
and they'll get a thumping out in Salt Lake City. Those play-in games, by the way, are being played in Dayton, Ohio, on Tuesday and Wednesday. The FDU game is I thought it was Wednesday, but now I'm looking at the schedule and it says Gonzaga is playing on Thursday, so I doubt they're playing Wednesday. That probably is a Tuesday game. And the other playing game, which it has a little bit of fun to it, a couple of gym rats going against each other on the sidelines, with Chris Mullen and St. John's playing against Bobby Hurley and Arizona State.
That's gonna be a fun.
That'll be fun. It's a couple of East Coast guys. A couple of East Coast legends, really. Let's face it. And Bobby Hurley was a legend as well. But going at it with their teams, and we'll see. Arizona State kind of had a stumble in the Pac-12 tournament. That was the game. Bill Walton. I'm going to go on a tangent here, brother, like you usually do, but I'm going to do it this time. Bill Walton was calling that Arizona State game the other night, and as far as there's two schools of thought on Bill Walton. People either love him or they hate him, and I love the guy because he to me he is the basketball equivalent of Phil Rizzuto. You never know what he's going to say. But the Arizona State game, went to overtime the other night, and Bill Walton desperately apparently needed to go to the bathroom.
Wow!
So he leaves, and what I guess Bill Walton didn't realize was, in between regulation and overtime, it's a minute, maybe 2.
Right.
So Bill Walton's off at the bathroom, and the guy who's doing the color, I think his name is Dave Pash, says, well, we're about to start overtime here, and Bill Walton's not back. Apparently had to go use the restroom. But he should be back shortly. And then he pauses for a second. He says, yeah, I know some of you probably are hoping that Bill Walton doesn't come back. And I'm like, wow, this is the guy you work with. So they tap the ball. Play is starting to go on. And in the bottom of the screen, you could see Bill Walton walking up the sideline.
Really?
It's tough to miss. He's 6'11". So here comes Bill Walton walking up the sideline, and you hear pass it. Oh, and here comes Bill Walton. And I forget who it was, but all of a sudden it was a big dunk. And I don't know, Bill Walton must have ran because he was nowhere near where he needed to be. But the dunk happens, Pash calls the dunk, and out of nowhere you hear, "Throw it down, big man." It was phenomenal.
You got to love it. You got to love it.
But yeah, that was the moment of the conference tournaments for me. But yeah, Bobby Hurley, who is still young in his career with college basketball, which is why he's still at Arizona State right now. Obviously, he's not a basketball power, but he's turned it into a decent school so far, and hopefully that will lead to him getting a better job and coming back east.
Well, I think also, you look at St. John's. What's the third year or fourth year for?
I believe it's the third year for Chris Mullin.
Okay, so he makes a tournament after 3 years. Not bad. Not bad.
Well, considering what he started with,
right,
it's great.
So I mean, this is
Chris Mullin started with garbage.
To me, I was thinking that let's say I was thinking St. John's was NIT this year, which
No, I mean they were a bubble. They've been a bubble team for a few weeks now. They've been mentioned in that last four.
I know they had a couple of good weeks in a row. My thing about him is that I'm thinking that he's gotten to the point where, do I really need this?
Well, it's his alma mater. That's
right,
why.
I know
if
that.
It was any other school, I don't think Chris Mullin would be coaching right now. I think he'd just be enjoying the fact that he made how many tens of millions of dollars playing basketball, and he'd be living in Manhattan and just enjoying life. But this, I mean, I don't want to say this gives him a purpose because
I think
coaching.
It does.
Well, coaching college basketball is it's ultra time consuming.
Of course,
you don't have free time.
You have to be seducing all these players you want for your team.
That's a weird word, but okay.
But that's what it is.
But
negotiating. How's that?
Let's say attracting. I mean, he's Chris Mullin. He's a legendary player. The thing is, I don't know how many current players know him because
they don't know who
the younger crowd is there. I hate to say
their
it, but
parents
know him. But the younger crowd these days, their attention spans are about 10 minutes,
and they don't show a lot of these old games. It'd be nice. Occasionally you see some old Georgetown St. John's game from '85.
Right.
When
you see some of the brawls.
Yeah. You see the big defensive matchups that these games were.
Well, it was muggings too.
Well.
Defensive matchups. It was guys
defense
brawling.
has changed in 35 years.
The referees don't let him play defense like that anymore. But Chris Mullin has that advantage. He can walk into a recruit's house and say, "Hi, I'm Chris Mullin. I was on the dream team."
Right.
And Patrick Ewing can say the same thing.
He can.
But
both of them, interestingly enough, have never won an NBA championship. They were on the dream team, but they did not win an NBA championship.
Michael Jordan was around. What are you going to do?
I know. I'm just saying.
But it's getting back to the tournament. Let's talk about the tournament. It's good for St. John's. Obviously, Chris Mullin is building something there. He's obviously trying to get St. John's back on the map, and this is a good thing. And the fact that they're in is obviously a positive. Everybody expects Shamari Pons, their top player, top scorer, to turn pro after this season. So that's gonna hurt, but. This making the NCAA tournament only helps St. John's because Mullin needs achievements and accomplishments like this to point to recruits and say, "Look, the Big East isn't Villanova and everybody else.
Right?
We're a relevant team, and it's still a relevant conference, and this is why you need to come play here." And he needs to be able to keep New York kids. And the problem. I think that we've had in recent years, there aren't as many really top talents coming out of New York like there used to be.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's too bad because New York,
in
many ways is the center of basketball. In many ways,
true.
When the Knicks are winning or the Nets now winning, this town will only talk about basketball for a while.
True, but you're getting a lot more good recruits from like the Baltimore area,
right.
Chicago, even Detroit. I'm not saying there aren't good players in New York, because obviously there are a lot of good players in New York. But Mullin needs to be able to keep the top players here. And the sad part is the top players here tend to go to the ACC. They'll go to Duke or North Carolina.
Well, that's a good place to go.
They're just getting out of New York.
Right.
But he needs to keep the top New York players in New York.
Right, I agree.
And it's a tough sell because part of that is because of the Big East.
I agree.
The Big East isn't what it used to be. That much is a fact. But that's his job. and that's what being Chris Mullen should help him do.
Yeah.
Because now you're looking. Does a kid want to play for a legend, or does he want to go down to North Carolina or Duke or whatever? Let's face it, Duke these days, that's where one and dones go.
Yeah,
and good for them, but that's not a model to win championships.
But think about you're going down to Duke and you one and done, and then you get your contract, even though it's a rookie contract with the NBA.
Right.
You're still getting a lot of money.
Of course.
Think about if you knew 2 years now you're going to make $3 million. That might be a pretty good deal.
Well, what I'm saying, I'm not necessarily endorsing that Mullen gets one and dones, although obviously the talent level would help St. John's in the short term. But he needs to try to build a program, and it's tough to build a program with one and dones because unless you get a couple of them at the same time, and then that will start attracting others. That's why Duke and Kentucky get those kids now because that's where they go. They say, all right, you know what, one and done. I know I'm going to start next year as a freshman because the guys who are the freshmen now are all going to the NBA. Right. Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, all those guys, they're all going pro after the season. And they're going to have 3 or 4 number one picks. And the same Kentucky's probably going to have at least 3 number one picks as well. So players know that they're not going to have guys in their way because all of those guys are leaving. Now, I don't endorse that for St. John's because I'd like to see him build something. But if that became the model, I'm sure Mullen wouldn't mind because he'd have some obviously really top talented players in his program, and that would elevate the program. That's another way to do it, but it's not the recommended way.
I'm happy that St. John's is back in the NCAAs. I think that's very important for New York at basketball. I think it's important for St. John's. You know who didn't make it though, brother?
Who's that?
Your alma mater,
Hofstra.
Our director's alma mater.
You know what?
Hofstra, they 2-3 weeks ago, you would have thought they were going to
4 or 5 weeks ago.
Okay, you would have thought they were going to get a berth in the NCAA.
Oh yeah, of course. They won 18 games in a row. They were the hottest team in the country.
Yeah, when what happened?
But they've stumbled. They forgot.
Stumbled. They tripped and hit their head.
They forgot how to play defense the way they needed to play defense, and they didn't share the ball as well. I mean, they beat Delaware in the conference tournament in the semifinals. Delaware, the team they beat by 40, and I think it was 20-something during the season. And they had to go to overtime to beat them in the semifinals. And that was just one of many games where they didn't play well. And something was missing after that winning streak. And Joe Mihalik, the coach over at Hofstra, said during the winning streak, he was quoted saying, I've told the guys, we can't peak now. We need to peak in March. And if this is our peak, then we're not doing it right. Well, that's what happened. They're not doing it right. And Hofstra winds up with a number 7 seed in the NIT, which means the conference isn't getting any kind of respect at all. No. And, to me, and I was talking about this with a friend of the show, John Valenti, yesterday, and actually probably for the last week or two. Hofstra needs to think about getting out of that conference because they're going nowhere. And the fact that Northeastern got a 13 seed, which isn't bad, but they're playing Kansas, and Kansas isn't Kansas this year, but they're a 4 seed, and they should destroy Northeastern. But Hofstra getting a 7 seed after winning the regular season title in the league, 7 seed in the NIT, that just shows you what the lack of respect. Wow. That there's nothing there as far as what people think. So they really need to look at trying to get him into maybe the A10 or I wouldn't even say the MAC because the MAC is a terrible league too. But they need to get into a more relevant conference. And years ago they stuck around because of football, and then a couple of years later they ended football. So their plan was kind of reminiscent of what the Giants are doing now, which basically is just to say there was no plan. But they really, if basketball is going to be their main sport, and obviously it is, they need to be in a more relevant conference because 7 seed in the NIT, it's
the only thing they have at Hofstra. They got rid of football years ago,
right?
Maybe some baseball, women's softball, maybe.
Women's
soccer.
women's softball and lacrosse are probably their 2 best sports over there.
Yeah. Anyway, also it seems that Rich Pitino's son is coaching. Richard Pitino. Over at Minnesota.
That the NCAA does this at least once or twice in the tournament. And I'm convinced that that's why St. John's and Arizona State are playing each other in the play-in game,
Right.
because you have Bobby Hurley against Chris Mullen.
It creates stories, brother.
But Minnesota, coached by Richard Pitino, the offspring of Rick Pitino, is playing Louisville, the team that fired Rick Pitino 3 years ago, I think it was. So that's a nice built-in storyline.
It is,
And you know the son is going to want to curb stomp Louisville after what they did to his dad, but that's going to be one of the more fun storylines of the tournament. Is again, the tournament committee likes to see what they can stir up and what kind of drama they can create. A few years back, they had the Louisville playing Kentucky. And it's probably more than a few years back, but Louisville played Kentucky in an early round game because the two teams refused to play each other. Here they are, state rivals, and they would not play each other. Well, you know what? The NCAA tournament took care of it.
Right.
So it's like, you guys aren't going to schedule it, and you aren't going to give the fans what they want. We'll take care of it for you. Thank you very much.
Well, that's
so. But
at least they stood up a little bit.
That was this. This is a great matchup, Minnesota and Louisville, for otherwise what would be a nondescript game.
Right.
But I'm now curious about that game, and I think a lot of basketball fans are curious about that game now, just because of the son going against the father's former team, and the school that. And I'm not even going to say that Louisville did Pitino wrong, because that program was out of control when he got fired. And he was deservedly fired, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Pitino, the program was to the point where it was lawless, and your favorite word, brother. There was hookers all over the place, and they were getting hookers for recruits. It was.
That's what you got to do nowadays.
Pitino kept saying, "Oh, I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing. It was all my assistant coaches." How can a coach not know anything?
Especially someone like Rick Pitino, who's all over the place.
But even if he's doing appearances or doing whatever, I mean, it's impossible for a head coach not to know anything that's going on in his program. So again, I'm not going to sit here and cry for Rick Pitino or say that Rick Pitino was a victim. But this does add an element to the game that otherwise wouldn't be there, like I said. So it makes it a much more fun first round game.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now. We're going to talk football when we get back. We'll hopefully have JP Pelzman on the phone. By the way, brother, Chris Mullen, 4 years. This is his fourth year.
Fourth year? All right, fourth year. My bad.
First year was 8-24, 14-19 next year, 16-17 year 3, 21-12 this year.
See, building. That's what he's got to do.
Not a bad thing.
Building.
You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Sports talk on your radio at 90.3 FM. Also, we're on the iHeart Radio app. We're on the TuneIn app, and we're at nccradio.org. Tim, you're at Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
All hit music.
For all those songs radio has forgotten about, join me, Big Ed, Mondays from 10 a.m. till noon for The Good Gold Show. We'll bring back all the great hits of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and more. The sounds of doo-wop to disco, all the Motown, soul, and great rock and roll. We'll even take your requests and dedications to The Good Gold Show.
Music.
On the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, and streaming on the iHeart Radio app.
Shake off the realities of the day, broaden your musical horizons, and embrace the diversity every Monday evening at 6 on Revelations. The show offers a potently unique collection of music with an emphasis on themes and rock rarities, an occasional tour de force of blues and soul, mixed with compelling sets of folk and folk rock. I'm Steve Kay, and I've got the perfect soundtrack for your drive home every Monday evening at 6 on Revelations. Right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
If you think all the great music has already been written, think again. Hi, I'm Kim Tracy, and I will prove to you that great new music is still being produced today. Join me on High Fidelity every Sunday at 9 a.m. for a mix of music with a focus on new music and lesser-known artists exclusively on the voice of Nassau Community College, worldwide on the iHeart Radio app, the TuneIn Radio app, nccradio.org, and always on 90.3 WHPC.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
That's not far.
What are we going to do? Hike?
Sure.
Are we there yet?
Yep, it's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org, brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
90.3 WHPC from the press box on your radio or your listening device. By the way, this becomes I was going to say a podcast, and it is a podcast afterwards on Spreaker.com and iHeartRadio. It's always there. We have it up within, a couple hours after we're up on the show.
Say podcast.
Podcast. I like podcasts, yeah. Anyway, we're going to see if we can get JP Pelzman on the phone. JP, you there?
Hey, Rob, right here.
All right,
Good
JP.
morning, you and Tim.
JP Pelzman.
Good morning, JP.
Football writer, or is it Jets writer? Is it specifically Jets or football writer?
Specifically Jets, yes.
For Forbes.com. And it's been a busy week in NFL football. It's been a busy week for the Jets. And, the excitement last week, JP, of the Combines, Timmy almost couldn't talk on the air because the excitement of watching people do 40-yard dashes. 40-yard dashes. He was all excited. So I don't know how you felt, but.
Well, I understand your frustration, Rob, but the thing is, give the NFL credit, as a certain broadcaster might say. They've made this into some kind of a thing where people actually are interested in it. And like you said, though, it's a bunch of guys running around cones and doing all this kind of stuff that really is boring. I mean, I get the draft because it's like
I love the draft.
Christmas morning or your birthday, or for some people those are the same day. But
that's Tim Leonard.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. Well, I knew that. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I'll tell you guys. Seriously, this is the truth. When Herm Edwards was coaching the Jets, he once had a great line about how. Now, I'm sure the Jets did it during the time he was there. I mean, I remember they had a nose tackle named Dwayne Robertson that Terry Bradway drafted that was kind of a workout warrior. But Herm once said, in his inimitable way, I don't want a guy who can run around a cone. I want a guy who can run around another guy. Which sums it up, you know what I mean?
You gotta love Herm.
Line. If you could beat guys off the edge, or you could, hold, if you're an offensive lineman and go hold your block, that's more important to me than, wow, look at what he did in that, whatever. But again, they've made it a cottage industry, so give the NFL credit. They certainly know how to market themselves.
Now, JP, why don't they just start a new version of Superstars? Go back to the 70s, bring Kyle Rowe Jr. back, or Dick Button or whatever, and let's do Superstars instead.
I want to see
Can any of these guys swim? That's the question.
So I wish we were on Facebook Live so that people could see me just shaking my head.
All I can say is, to me, the Combine and the Superstars is the same, except I enjoyed the Superstars.
Yeah, and you don't get to see Johnny Bench. I think he's still riding that bike, I think. But,
yeah, that and none of those guys none of them could ever swim.
They couldn't swim and they couldn't ride. A lot of them couldn't ride a bike.
Yeah, that was funny. It was funny stuff. So it was a busy week for you last week, huh, JP?
Yeah, pretty busy because I also do some college hoops. So yeah, it was.
We were just talking college hoops.
Yeah.
We're just talking college hoops. We're very happy.
I cover Seton Hall for Rivals.com as well, and the Jets for Forbes.com.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So
we were talking about Seton Hall. We think they might, make the second round. I think.
Well, it's an interesting matchup because Wofford. I was wrong. I thought it was Wofford, but it's Wofford, like Waffle House, and which there are a lot of obviously in that neck of the woods.
That's true.
It's interesting. They have a terrific three-point shooter. I mean, Seton Hall thinks their guy is great, and he is, Miles Powell, but they have this three-point shooter named Fletcher McGee who shoots 42.8% from the arc, beyond the arc. So, we'll see. I mean, they have a lot of shooters, so it should be an interesting game, but it's one of those things, don't sleep on them. I mean, hey, Wofford's the favorite. I mean, they've won 20 straight games, so that's a tough game. But I know one thing, Seton Hall won't be looking ahead to Kentucky because they already beat them. So it's not like, oh, my God, we're scared of Kentucky, So we'll see, but it is an interesting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start off with football, brother. What's your first question?
Well, JB, I just want to talk, specifically how you think the Jets did. I mean, they had all of this cap money to spend. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell comes with baggage, but to me, he was a guy they absolutely had to sign. But talk about Bell. I mean, I thought they overpaid massively for C.J. Mosley, but obviously he's an outstanding addition. So just kind of review and maybe assess how you think the Jets did.
Well, I mean, we can go over guy by guy if you like,
sure,
but to start with the two guys you mentioned. I think the fact that they kind of got Bell at a decent rate makes up for the fact that, yes, they did overpay C.J. Mosley. And I don't know if you guys know this, but he'll be the second player named C.J. Mosley to play for the Jets.
That's exciting.
I did not know that.
They had a defensive lineman in the mid-2000s whom they acquired in a trade for the immortal Brooks Bollinger.
So in other words, the first C.J. Mosley wasn't much.
No, he wasn't very good. He was a rotation player, as they say. But this guy should be good. I mean, again, like you said, they overpaid. But to me, the biggest upshoot of this is, Darren Lee has to be a goner at some point because where's he going to play? I mean, he can't play on the outside. He could have played on the outside in a 4-3. I'm still, guys, kind of puzzled as to why they're making Greg Williams, who's been a 4-3 guy his entire career, run a 3-4. But, I mean, maybe they feel like I know McCagnon likes the young defensive tackle Nathan Shepard that he drafted in the third round last year. And, I mean, Leonard Williams, I think he got a bad rap last year. I think he occupied a lot of guys. I think he had a better year than people think. But I think they should have gone to the 4-3. But, hey, what do I know? I'm not Greg Williams or Mike McCagnon. I don't drink a lot of coffee. So
I was going to say
coffee. Actually,
I was going to say probably fortunate for that with the coffee.
Yeah, I don't drink any coffee. So, but Le'Veon Bell, just to get to him, I think it was a decent price. The thing I've been stressing in my writing is that what I like about Le'Veon Bell is a running back takes pressure off the quarterback as opposed to, let's talk about Le'Veon Bell's former teammate Antonio Brown. He's one of those guys who would be in Sam Darnold's ear every other second. Hey, throw me the ball, throw me the ball, throw me the ball.
Right.
I mean, they will call plays for Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't have to go to Sam Darnold and say, hey, hand me the ball, hand me the ball, hand me the ball.
Or even pass the ball. I mean, that to me, that's one of the underrated things that Bell brings is he's a great,
and he'll be a great,
Tim,
he'll be a great third down option, check down for Darnold,
exactly.
And I think that's something he really, especially after Powell got hurt last year, something he really didn't have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that to me, I think that's what really helps in terms of Darnold's development as a quarterback. Is he'll have a safe option if he needs it. I still think the Jets desperately need to upgrade wide receiver position, but there will or should be options for them.
I think you can wait on that a little bit because I think they'll be better this year. I mean, Jamison Crowder is a very good slot guy. Now, he was hurt last year. And again, it seems like this is like kind of a theme with McCagnon, guys. It seems like he does roll the dice on guys who have had like a recent injury history, and sometimes it comes back to bite them. I mean, it might not necessarily be the same injury, but I mean, Spencer Long missed a good chunk of the 2017 season with the Redskins, and then he comes to the Jets, and all of a sudden his hand is hurt, and he can't snap the ball, which is kind of a problem for a center. But
big problem.
But Crowder missed a bunch of games last year with an ankle problem, but when he's healthy, I mean, he's one of those guys. I mean, he's actually kind of like almost like a Patriot slot receiver in that he's not straight line fast, but he is quick. He gets separation right at the line, and that's great, guys, for a young quarterback because, boom, you see that guy flash over the middle on a slant, boom, you throw him the ball. Don't have to worry about three-step drop. Don't have to worry about pass rush. So I think he is going to be a major addition for the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything. To me, like I said, I thought they had to get him. I was actually kind of surprised when I heard 4 years, $52 million, because I thought it was going to take more than that. I don't know who else was interested. I had a feeling that the Bears were interested because I know that they're looking for somebody to catch more passes out of the backfield. But to me, again, this was something the Jets needed to do, desperately needed to do.
Well, I think the Ravens were interested too in Bell, and who knows, maybe it was a case where the Jets were bidding. I mean, let's face it, Bell can spin it any way he wants, but I mean, he could have been making a little slightly more money with the Steelers. I mean,
right.
I mean the franchise tag last year would have netted him $14.54 million, and if you go average per year, he's making about $1 million less this year.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's the part I don't understand. He didn't make up the money that he would have made last year.
No, he didn't.
Not at all.
He didn't. But let's face it, we all know now. Whatever the deal, and I believe he's at that obviously that Saquon Barkley level. He's that elite running back. I mean, not just a 1,000-yard guy, but an elite guy. But again, we all know now that, and again, that's why Tim, you're right. The Mosley thing was surprising because inside linebacker like running back, they just aren't premium positions anymore.
Right, and Mosley is getting $17 million a year. I think I remember seeing that the second or the previous highest paid inside linebacker was like about $12 million. So the Jets blew that out of the water.
Yeah,
but was that because Mosley maybe didn't want to leave the Ravens, or was that just because were other teams, were they bidding against themselves, or were they bidding against somebody else? I mean, that's just such a massive overpay, it seems.
Well, I mean, I think it could have been. I mean, let's face it. We know one thing: Greg Williams had a lot of influence on who he wanted, so I'm sure he had a big say in it, and with the fact that they just brought him on board, and especially making him run a 3-4, they wanted to keep him happy. But yes, it was. Well, but maybe they figured, hey, we underpaid for Bell, so to speak, so we can overpay for this guy. What I think the biggest thing, guys, I think I wasn't surprised because he doesn't value them. It's kind of like a Moneyball thing in baseball.
Right.
I mean, he let 2 Pro Bowlers on special teams walk and really didn't offer either of them much, and that was kind of surprising.
Yeah, the kicker and
Andre Roberts, the kick return. Now Myers, I think they'll be okay with losing him because they brought back the guy they had 2 years ago, Chandler Catanzaro,
right?
Who honestly is known as Catman. So you can Catman. No.
Okay, JP.
But
Catman.
the kick returner. But the kick returner, guys, it's like they're putting a lot of pressure on the special teams coach, Brant Boyer. Like, okay, you got to scheme up returns because I don't think I don't want to sound like I'm Peter King or somebody, but I don't think the public sometimes understands being a good kickoff return isn't just about straight line speed. You have to, you have to hit the hole right. You have to work your blocks and not outrun your blocks. I mean, and Roberts was great if you watch him. Now, granted, he got great blocking, but he was great at picking a hole and using his blockers, and that's not easy. And then they'll probably rely on his sixth. Again, McCagnon likes his draft picks. They're probably going to rely on their sixth rounder they got last year out of Virginia State, a kid named Trenton Cannon.
Okay.
He was a backup running back, so that's probably. And I guess Crowder would return punts. He did it with Washington.
We're talking with JP Pelzman. He is the Jets beat writer for Forbes.com, and we're talking football because this week, my brother, I feel confident talking football instead of like the combine stuff. But you know what? This one thing about this past week is that free agency in football is not like baseball, where football it's like, okay, who can we sign this week right now? Where in baseball it seems a little slower, and I'm not sure why.
Slower. JP, let me ask you a question. Well, I've got a couple of questions. Talk about Anthony Barr and what happened there. And were the Jets upset about that, or were they just kind of like, all right, well, we'll just address it in the draft?
No, they were upset about that, but I think he used them. I think that's happened before. I think that's why after that happened, remember that happened before they signed Bell. They kind of went to Bell and said, hey, this is our deadline, okay? If you're interested, get back to us, but we're not going to keep waiting on you. But I think Barr used them to get a better deal from Minnesota. But as I wrote on Forbes.com, I think actually he did them a favor because they were going to – this guy hadn't rushed the passer since he was at UCLA 6 years ago.
Yeah. He was good. He was good at UCLA. The kid had a motor back then.
He was very good as a pass rusher.
Had a motor.
But 5 years of playing basically a 4-3 end – and now you're going to switch him to a 3-4 upright linebacker and ask him to rush the passer, which he hardly did against Minnesota. Now, but part of the reason about that was I looked this up. I thought this was interesting. He had 3 sacks, guys, last season. Well, 2 of them were against Ryan Tannehill. So we know he used to coach the Dolphins. So maybe Gase was like, oh, wow, this guy looks like a great pass. Yeah, he got 2 sacks against you and 1 against everybody else. But
Ryan Tannehill being the guy that Herm Edwards was talking about that he wants the guys to run around.
But don't get me wrong. I mean, he wasn't asked to rush the passer, so I thought that was kind of a weird fit. I mean, we all know, talking about the NFL draft, which you guys mentioned, there's so much smoke and mirrors. Now, who knows if Kyler Murray will or will not go number 1. But if he does, then there's no question the Jets will get a good pass rusher in the draft. So maybe they can address that there.
Well, to me, if Kyler Murray goes number 1, I could see Nick Bosa maybe fall into the Jets.
He could fall there. No, he could fall there, yeah. So you figure though either Nick Bosa or the other Josh Allen falls to. Right. It'd be funny if Josh Allen sacked Josh Allen, actually. That'd be fun.
I think if the Jets pick Josh Allen, I think they're probably hoping that happens often.
Exactly. Josh Allen crime. But I think they can get the pass rusher they need. I mean, I think they have to stop thinking, we could scheme up sacks. How did that work for Todd Bowles? You know what I mean?
No, that doesn't work.
You have to. I mean, let's face it. This is not hyperbole, guys. They haven't had an edge rusher who makes opposing offensive coordinators lose sleep since John Abraham, and they traded him away in 2006 before the draft.
Yeah, we're talking
That's
long
how long
time
it's
ago.
been.
The weird thing to me is the last couple of drafts, it seems like the Jets have just had, or the last few, I mean, the Jets have had guys fall into their laps. I mean, Sam Darnold, you could say, fell into their laps because probably the Giants should have picked him. Now that you look back at it and see that the Giants are having all these issues with quarterbacks still. What's his name? Jamal Adams, to me, was the best player in that draft, fell into their laps. You could say the same for Leonard Williams as well a few years ago.
A lot of people
thought he was the best player in the draft, and again fell to the Jets. Now, the fact that the Jets have had all of these top 3 or top 6 picks in the last 3 years obviously doesn't say much for what else they've been doing outside of the draft. But in recent years, they have had good first round picks, and the best guy seems to find them. So whether or not that happens this time. I mean, we've talked on the show about the possibility of the Jets trading this pick and trying to amass some draft capital after they had to trade the three second-round picks last year for Sam Darnold. But it seems to me like there's going to be an obvious, really elite player there. So it would seem that it would be either a mistake to trade out of that spot, or it would require a massive haul back to have somebody trade up. I wouldn't be averse to the Jets trading down into around maybe the 10 range. And I'm trying to remember the guy who was the receiver that blew up the combine.
Metcalf of Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi State kid. It seems to me like he'd be a great guy to pick. I mean, he seems to do everything well. I know he was hurt in college this year, so he wasn't really able to show what he can do with catching the ball, but combine-wise, he was unbelievable. I mean, he did everything at an elite level.
Well, here's how I look at it, Tim. Is kind of the same way you do. If Kyler Murray goes at number 1, I'm staying put because I'm going to get one of those 2 edge rushers.
Right.
If he doesn't go number 1, and it looks like, and obviously they'll have time to figure this out, but then I start working the phones and saying, okay, Quinnen Williams of Alabama, but again, he's an interior guy. I mean, he'd project as an end in the 3-4, but and he was actually a good pass rusher for the interior lineman, but still, he's not an edge rusher that's going to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an incredible talent. I mean,
I was going to say Quinnen Williams to me could be like an Aaron Donald type.
He could be.
I don't want to put that on because Aaron Donald is unbelievable.
No, but he could be. So I'm saying that would be the decision. Okay,
right.
You take Quinnen Williams, who is an elite player. Or, like you said, you trade down and see if maybe you can get that wide out, or maybe you can fill some other hole. I mean,
and plus acquire picks.
That's when the decision becomes. That to me is when you have a decision. But to me, it's a no-brainer if Murray goes first because then you get your edge rusher.
Right, for sure. I agree 100% with you. But in terms of. Well, let me ask you this also, just to kind of get away from the draft a little bit. How much more cap room do the Jets have, and what other needs are they looking for? Because there's still players out there. I mean, obviously the frenzy of the NFL. I love what they call it. What do they call it? The legal
tampering.
Legal tampering, which talk about oxymorons. But that period is over.
And guys, I'm sorry to interrupt. They still subvert that because I mean, some insider broke like a sign like at 12:15 that day. Oh yeah, they just started negotiating at noon. I mean, come on, come on.
Good point.
Doesn't work that way.
But yeah, I mean, cornerback. I mean, they're still right now. They're kind of short a cornerback. I mean, they need a cornerback. And like you guys said, they do need a wide receiver. There's no elite ones out there. I mean, I think they have about $50 million left right now. Last time I looked,
that's not bad. 5-0 or 1-5?
No, 50. 5-0.
That's pretty good.
That's amazing.
Well, because let's face it, because it's a couple of the moves they thought they were. I mean, obviously, if they had made the Barr move, they'd have a lot less. But so, like I said, I still think that was one of the best deals you don't make. But they still have needs, and I'll say this much for all the. And McCagnon gets a lot of deserved heat, believe me. His big ticket signings haven't gone well, but Trumaine Johnson, anyone, but but he sometimes, when he shops in that bargain bin, like when you find one of those. You find a great 1970s cassette in the bargain bin. Sometimes you get some decent value there.
Led Zeppelin 3.
Exactly.
JP, I just want to ask you, outside of the Jets right now, just a couple of things. First of all, Nick Foles signs with Jacksonville, which I was a little shocked by. I thought he was maybe that Philadelphia might keep him or sign him and then trade him or do something. And then the other one we haven't talked about yet, Odell Beckham Jr., gone.
well, first of all, with Foles, I was just surprised by the money. I mean, that's
what I was surprised by.
That's a lot of money for Nick Foles. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to sound like another broadcaster. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a solid guy. Oh, he's solid. But that kind of money, I mean, he's not a game changer. To me, he's like a step above what Bill Parcells used to go hold the fort guy. I mean, he's still not the franchise guy Jacksonville's another team that's been seeking a franchise guy ever since Mark Brunell got old.
But you don't think Nick Foles leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl and winning last year, and even this past year, bringing them to the playoffs? I
think he had a great team around him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't respect his talent, but he's not a guy that you need to have a good team around him. I mean, I still don't think he's a guy that is going to lift everybody up like a Brady or a Breeze. That's what I'm getting at.
But Jacksonville is operating under the assumption that they're still a player or two away. I mean, they were terrible last year, but 2 years ago they thought they were a Super Bowl team. And I think that last season that they just figured, all right, you know what, Blake Bortles is so bad that we have no shot with him, and if we have a legitimate quarterback, that we're going to put ourselves back in the Super Bowl contention picture.
No, I get what they did, and I don't have a problem with it. But like I said, I just have a problem with the money. I just think that's
$22 million a year for Nick Foles is
big. That's a big ticket for a guy. I mean, but again, it was the same thing when Kirk Cousins was signed. I mean, I saw him play against the Jets last year with the Vikings, and again, he's a good quarterback. Nothing wrong with it. His numbers are good, but again, I put him in the Kirk Cousins level that you need the team around him because he is not going to single-handedly lift up guys like Peyton back in the day, or Brady, Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, etc.
As it turned out, the Jets were pretty lucky that Cousins said no.
No, again, Tim, that's like, to me, that'll be like Barr. It'll be like, again, a guy spurned there from Minnesota, so maybe it'll work out like that. That guy who chose Minnesota over the Jets turned out to be a good move for them. As far as OBJ, I mean, I just don't know. Again, I know I'm the 8,876 person to say this, but I don't know what Dave Gettleman is doing. I don't know what the plan is there.
There is no plan.
Unless the plan is to draft Haskins at number 6 and do the Kansas City thing and have him sit behind Eli for a year, or at least a portion of a year, and learn. But then Eli's got such a big cap number this year. I mean, to me, they should have figured out long ago, if they felt Beckham was too tough to control and too much of a bad apple and too much of a problem in the locker room, then you have to trade him at a higher value and get more for him. You can't. I just don't know what they were thinking. And let's face it. I mean, Peppers is a wonderful talent, but really he's been kind of underwhelming in Cleveland.
Yeah, and he's also kind of a man without a position. I mean,
that's a great point.
To me, the people who were a little more gung-ho about this trade, because there are people who have just completely panned this trade from a Giants perspective, and I'm one of them. But you look at, people were saying, well, getting Peppers is like getting a number 1 pick. Well, no, he's not, because he doesn't really have a position. He's a phenomenal athlete, but he's not necessarily a phenomenal football player. He does. He does a lot of areas. He right now, he's your kick returner, no doubt. I mean, he's that kind of talent that, fine, put him back there. But defensively, they moved him to safety last year, and he became kind of a better position for him. But he's kind of a tweener. Like, is he a safety or a linebacker? And I don't know what he's going to do or how he's going to do it. But it seems like here's a guy who has immense athletic gifts, but doesn't necessarily have a position on the football field.
Well, no, you're exactly right, Tim. I mean, that's it reminds me of the recruiting services now for college guys coming out of high school, and they will list guys. They won't even list a position; they'll just say athlete.
Right.
And he was one of those type of guys. And the problem is that translates better into college when let's face it, every team you're going against doesn't have an elite athlete at every position, and you can move them around like a piece on a chessboard and get the most out of them. But in the pros, like you said, that really doesn't fly. You need to have a hard and fast position, or you're really not going to contribute as much as you can. And I also would add to what you said, you make another good point, is to me, and this is a big problem with the Jets in the past, not to just put it on them, but they would fall in love with a guy and say, in the draft, right? Let's say they didn't get him, and 2 years later or whatever, he's available in a trade or whatever. Oh, we had a first round rating on that guy. Well, guess what? He's had 2 or 3 years in the NFL, and he doesn't look like a first rounder. And you made that point.
Right.
Yes, Peppers was a first round talent. He doesn't look like a first rounder right now.
No, not at all.
So it's a roll of the dice, and I just think Gettleman. Again, I don't want to. I mean, I know he had health issues and everything, but you just wonder if he's operating under like the NFL of 10 years ago and not realizing how much the game has changed. I know it's an obvious thing to say, but you feel like maybe the game's passed him by.
It's possible. I mean, that trade was just a mess. So, I don't know.
JP, we have to get going. Thanks for joining us. JP Pelzman, the Jets beat writer for Forbes.com. Is it Forbes.com and then do a search on Jets? Is that how we read your articles?
Yes, that would be a good idea, yes.
Okay, do that. Go to Forbes.com. Go to the search engine and type in New York Jets or JP Pelzman. Or Pelzman, JP Pelzman. That's not a bad thing. JP, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you probably around training camp.
Draft time.
Maybe draft time. That's in a couple of months.
That sounds good.
Okay,
take care, guys.
Talk to you later, man. Bye-bye.
Take care, JP. Good stuff.
Bye.
We're at 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. You're listening to From the Press Box. I'm Rob Leonard. He is Tim Leonard. Tim, you're at Twitter at?
Real Tim Leonard.
Frank Sinatra.
Bing Crosby.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Dean Martin.
Hey guys, what are you doing?
We're making a list of artists you don't hear on the radio anymore.
Wait, I know where you can hear all of them and more.
Where?
Right here on Standard Serenade. Join me, Glenn DeMilt, for 2 hours of great songs by the great stars. Saturday afternoon at 5 on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
The Spectacular 60s with host Joe Lane. The music that defined a generation. Sundays at 7 p.m. on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
90.3 WHPC. From the press box on your radio or on your listening device, iHeartRadio app, tunein.com, nccradio.org. Remembering the great Dick Dale, who passed away yesterday. I feel like I'm watching, what's the movie? I can't remember the movie now. You don't remember the movie? Quentin Tarantino? I can't remember. Travolta, Grand Royale.
Oh, Pulp Fiction.
I can't remember.
What's he talking about?
I don't know. Anyway, Miserlou right there. And you're listening to From the Press Box. By the way, brother, Full Irish every Saturday at 11 a.m. This program provides Irish music and news of interest to the Irish-American community. Hosted by Gary Power. That's Full Irish every Saturday at 11 a.m. And by the way, everyone, happy St. Joseph Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
Today is St. Joseph Day.
No, we don't know that.
He gets the day you get to eat cannolis. You should know that, brother. You love cannolis.
I do love cannolis.
So, and then you should know that.
I was dealing with a lot of wannabe Irish on the train on Saturday.
Of course. It was all poses.
Terrible.
They think they wear green and they get away with things. Anyway, brother,
I had to tell one girl. Just looked right in the face and said, "Get away from me, drunk girl."
That's right. Anyway,
this was on the train.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
The Yankees, brother, are they ready to go for?
The Yankees are already ready.
Are they?
To go. They're hitting bombs left and right. They are. And here, brother, is something that I wasn't sure I would ever see again. Jacoby Ellsbury has reported to spring training. I honestly thought he was in the witness protection program. He has not been seen or heard from. Apparently, he is going to address the media today. In fact, he might be doing it right now. But Jacoby Ellsbury is back.
Where was he hiding?
He's been hurt. He's been injured. He's had a lot of procedures. He had plantar fasciitis this spring, which is why he's been away for the first month of spring training. But apparently he is now healthy again, and who knows? He could contribute. Aaron Hicks, the center fielder who the Yankees signed recently to a 7-year, $70 million extension, will start the season on the injured list, and there is a window for Jacoby Ellsbury to come in and contribute. It's quite likely that Brett Gardner will start the season in center field with Hicks on the IL, which probably pushes Clint Frazier into left field.
Right.
But that makes Jacoby Ellsbury the fourth outfielder as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think Giancarlo Stanton, I don't think he's even going to factor into the outfield. I think he's going to be the full-time DH. But obviously they could use him in the outfield if need be. But now there's apparently a slight role for Jacoby Ellsbury, whose contract can't run out fast enough. This is one of the worst signings in Brian Cashman's storied history as the general manager of the New York Yankees.
He's had some good signings.
It's just been a disaster. This is Carl Pavano level kind of ineptitude. But as Jacoby Ellsbury's contract runs out, it's more than possible that they could trade him and get something in return that could help, whether they're trading bad contracts. There was a rumor going around early in spring that they could trade Ellsbury to the Giants for Johnny Cueto, who's got another bad contract and is also injured. I would make that trade if I was the Yankees, but we'll see what happens. But again, hey, Ellsbury, he's back.
Right.
Like I said, as far as the Yankees go, and with the way things are, it's entirely possible that we could have Greg Bird and Luke Voit making the team. Both those guys have been tearing up spring training. Both of those guys deserve a spot on the roster, but Aaron Boone has said he doesn't necessarily want to carry both of them because he's looking at DJ LeMahieu as the backup first baseman. Neither Bird nor Voit really could play the outfield. I mean, they're both pretty much limited to first base or first base DH. But if Stanton is going to be your full-time DH, as I expect, then obviously there are limited opportunities there. So
sounds like the Yankees might have too many players of talent.
Too many good players.
Well,
and that's a good problem to have.
Not really, because sometimes these players need to play every day, and if they're not, platooning worked on the '86 Mets, but those guys weren't they weren't platooning Keith or Hernandez.
I still am of the mindset that the Yankees this season, assuming good health or reasonably good health, this is a team that's going to threaten 300 home runs in a season, which is just an unbelievable number, and it would break their own record by a couple dozen. But that's how much power they have. It's unbelievable. Everybody on this team hits home runs, and everybody hits a lot of home runs. Gary Sanchez still hasn't hit this spring, but if he gets his stroke back, figure 30 or 35 home runs. And obviously Stanton and Judge have 50 home run potential. Bird and Voit both should hit at least 20, assuming they both get enough at bats. Tulowitzki hit a home run yesterday and is starting to find his swing. I know some people have been down on him because he started slow, but the guy hasn't played in a year and a half. He needs at bats. So, things right now, again, it comes back to pitching. The Yankees announced that Luis Severino probably won't pitch until May, so he's going to miss the first month of the season.
And CC has some health issues?
CC's got some health issues, so there's been some rumors lately about the possibility of signing Gio Gonzalez, which they could probably get him on a one-year deal for $5 or $6 million, and then figure it out later when everybody gets healthy. If everybody stays healthy, I mean, it's not a bad idea to have a sixth pitcher on a major league roster these days.
We should also say the Islanders are back tied in first place in the Metropolitan Division with the Washington Capitals, and the playoffs.
They beat the Minnesota Wild last night 3-2. Brock Nelson had an overtime goal, and Minnesota native Brock Nelson.
Yeah, so looks like the Islanders it's getting closer to the playoffs. So we look forward to the Islanders being there. The first round will be at the Coliseum. Second round, if the Islanders make it, will be at the Barclays.
I still want to party with Clark Gillies, by the way. Clark Gillies. Anybody knows Clark Gillies, have him call in the show.
We got to find out where he's partying. I'm sure the Islanders, I give Ledecky and the other guy, Malkin.
Yes,
What they did was, when they were going to Barclays, they paid, obviously. They'd have, Gillies and Nystrom,
Right.
and I think Mike Bossy was even on the train going to Barclays. So, I mean, imagine you're on the train and you're having a couple of nips, and then all of a sudden you see Gillies there.
It's Clark Gillies.
Hey, Nystrom, yeah, Bob, you have a beer with us.
I'm looking to party with Clark Gillies. We'll do a live broadcast.
I would love
to.
to.
If Clark Gillies will party with us in the Coliseum parking lot. How about that? There's an offer.
We will have to. I will call some friends. We'll work on that. Anyway, you've been listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. I'm Rob Leonard. He is Tim Leonard. Tim, your Twitter at
Real Tim Leonard.
Coming up next is Big Ed Newlands with The Good Gold Show, so keep it tuned here, and we appreciate it. We'll see you in 167 hours. I'll see you with Friday with Beatles songs at 8 p.m. I'll see you on Sunday with the Free For All. Bye-bye.
90.3 WHPC wants to let you know that Wednesday, April 17th, is our second ever WHPC Day at Miller's Ale House of Levittown. On Wednesday, April 17th, Miller's Ale House of Levittown is hosting a Give Back Day to support WHPC. More information can be found by searching for 90.3 WHPC on Facebook, at 903 WHPC on Twitter, or at 903 WHPC on Instagram. Miller's Ale House is located at 3046 Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown, across from the Tri-County Flea Market, where WHPC's Give Back Day is Wednesday, April 17th from 11:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thanks to you and Miller's Ale House of Levittown for supporting the non-commercial educational radio at the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.